Hi, it's Lou. You know, the good-looking one with the full head of lush hair? I'm taking a break from filling DM Scott's shampoo bottle with Nair to tell you about our new website, thedungeonmastersdojo.com. There, you'll find a host of awesome things, including a picture of me. Every third Friday of the month, a new blog post related to gaming comes out. Interested in getting caught up on the podcast episodes? You'll find those on the website too, as well as other interesting information. Head on over to thedungeonmastersdojo.com and pay us a visit. Send us a message too. We'd love to hear from you. Now, if you excuse me, I have to take the batteries out of DM Bill's hearing aid. See you next time in the dojo.
Hey there, it's DM Scott. That's right, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you, the chubby guy wearing the This Is How I Roll t-shirt. Why don't you ditch that ratty old t-shirt that's 2 sizes too small for you? Where'd you get that? Baby Gap? Head on over to our Merch and More store on our epic new website. Grab yourself some Dungeon Masters Dojo logo wear. You won't regret it. Rock that t-shirt like the nerd boss you are. It's sleek and it's black, and everyone knows that black is slimming. Hell, I look like a slender 3XL when I'm wearing this black shirt. Not only will you look deceptively less chunky, but with that bold red and white logo, you look like a superhero. And who doesn't want to look like a superhero? So head on over to the DungeonMastersDojo.com merch and more to fill your bag with our swag. See you next time in the dojo.
I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been.
Hanging on the promises and songs of yesterday. And I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting nor a time. Here I go again. Here I go again.
It's Splitting the Party. 5 reasons why you shouldn't this week on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your Dungeon Masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robitaille. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. Scott and Bill. I don't do it as well as you guys do.
Our poor attempt at Shatnering is still far better than our singing ever would be.
Oh, yeah. My singing can instantly sterilize any small woodland animal 10 pounds or less.
Well, while you guys do this episode, I'm going to go this way and do something over here.
Yeah, splitting the party. That's been kind of the D&D theme. You never split the party. You never, ever split the party. It's just bad, but why?
Bad things happen. Bad things happen. Well, bad things can happen.
And oftentimes
they sure as shit are going to happen on my table.
Yeah.
Because I see it as an opportunity for me to torment someone that's 35 feet off the side of the road.
In a white dress.
In a white dress. That can't be seen because they're 35 feet away, not 30.
And Tom is a beautiful person, but I don't know if a white dress is the right attire for him.
Maybe something in a mauve.
But definitely. Or an evening gown.
Either way, 35 feet off 35 feet off the pathway, you are still going to be seen.
Far too close, especially if you're Tom wearing a white dress. You need to go at least 100 yards into the woods.
That's it.
And wear something green or camouflage. We love you, Tom.
All right, talking points on why.
Yeah, why
you should
you not split the party? What is the worst that could happen?
Yeah, what could happen? How about
I could be all alone.
You certainly could.
You probably will be. And aside from your morning constitutional, you're probably going to die. Well, at least the opportunity, the chances of you perishing are going to increase quite a bit.
Yeah. The chances of character death increases by a lot. Right, and why? Right, maybe you have that encounter ready off in the woods or off in another corridor in the dungeon, and it's set up for a party of 5 or 6, and then here comes the lone wolf.
Yep.
Right, we're splitting up.
The contrarian.
Yes, I'm going my own way.
But why? Because it's
Yeah.
what my character would do.
And you run smack dab into the ogres, the party of 7 or 8 ogres that was supposed to be an encounter for the entire adventuring party. And now, whoops, even if you're not by yourself, right? If there's 2 or 3 other people, if half of the party goes one way, the other half of the party goes the other,
Yep.
you're running into encounters that are meant for an entire party. And that could be really lethal.
You may not even be the impetus of why this encounter started. Well, I'm going to head off by myself. Great, head off by yourself. It's a bad idea,
Yeah.
but and then the party does something like set off something loud or an explosion or a mock combat. Oh, we're going to spar. Well, sparring sounds an awful lot like combat from a distance. Just because you don't want to hit and hurt them doesn't mean the people who are hearing it goes, hey, look, there's combat. Let's go hit and hurt them. And you happen to be between point A and point B. So now here comes your band of orcs marching along and, thinking they're creeping up on the party. And lo and behold, they stumble upon you
Yeah.
doing whatever dumbass thing you were going to do by yourself.
Dangerous.
Very.
And we talk about scaling encounters a lot. But in this case, I don't know how you feel, Bill. I would not scale the encounter, right? If you split up and you did so, and it's poor planning, which it is, then you are encountering that encounter that is intended for the entire party.
Now, if it's a one-off, every once in a while someone's picked something up that they want to identify it or look it over, and they don't want to do it in front of the party, and this isn't someone who doesn't do this on a regular basis, I might give them a little leeway, give them a little time to fathom, and then maybe, all right, roll your perception. All right, you hear conversation. You don't understand the language, and there's more than one. There's more than 3, and you're by yourself. Give him a chance to get back to the party, but put these things on on his heels. So it's not like, I'm going to go right back and award everyone. Everyone's going to have time to prep for him, because that is contrary to probably to what you have set up for your encounter. Give them that small window of opportunity to get their ass back out, to the party. But if this is someone who does it on a regular basis, I think you know damn well what I'd do.
Yep. I think all of y'all would have a pretty good, after this amount of time, you all know it ain't going to be pretty.
There's going to be some burials around.
Yeah, and this, there's a good way to do it, and there's a poor way to do it. And today we're talking about the poor ways of splitting a party and why it's a bad idea. And if you're a new GM, really discourage that, because it's hard to manage. Because now essentially you're running 2 tables, and without getting into a lot of details yet about it. But if you're brand new, just and players, if you got a brand new GM who probably had the role thrust upon them by the rest of you,
because you didn't want to do it.
Yeah, because you didn't want to do it, be kind and stay together so you're not making problems for your new GM.
This will cause definite problems for a GM, especially if he's not ready for this, like you said.
Right.
This could just you can break your GM because he's not ready for this, and especially if he doesn't know how to scale. If it's these one-off by accidents, or I didn't know, but if, like Bill said, if somebody's doing this on the regular and like, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to scout without telling my party because I want to see what's ahead, because I want that information for myself. Yeah, I could see somebody getting walked upon by those ogres.
Yep, and you get it all by yourself, just the way you wanted it. Careful what you ask for.
Yeah, and then your party may make it just in time to watch you get
eviscerated.
Yeah, pretty much processed.
I like that word, eviscerated.
Hung up and quartered and thrown in bags and the whatnot for later. So be aware of that. And this is not just for DMs either. It's for players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So the players out there understand that there's risk to doing so. When you split the party, be it through strife or you're lone wolfing it, understand that there's the very real potential that you could die, and don't be upset.
Yep. You brought it upon yourself.
Yeah.
Or just remember, you're not in the game for a while because you're off on your own doing something. You're going to be my second table all by yourself for X amount of time.
Well, that was going to excuse me. That was going to take us to the second point. You're making more work for your DM, and as the DM, I would cater to the largest portion. So I'm going to make sure that the other 4 or 5 people have their turn, and then you're by yourself. And it's like, well, I'll get back to you in a moment. I'll get back to you. Well, I'll get back to you in a moment. And I know you guys have seen me do this.
yeah, and that's why I said that.
And it's like, no, I'll get you. You want to be by yourself? Well, you're by yourself. I'll get to you in a moment. And I will purposely make them wait a little longer before I get back to them, and then encourage them to get back. And if they don't, well, then, all bets are off. And, the mean side of the sugary coating that is, DM Bill will come out. And you're probably going to end up rolling up another character.
I wasn't aware that there was a sugar coating. I mean, when did this thing happen? I've known you like 30 years.
It's always a nice spin on it. Don't believe them.
It's the same shit they dust the Sour Patch Kids with. That ain't sweet.
Well, it's granulated.
It's grainy, all right.
But to Bill's point, I guess at least in my mind, let's say the 6 of us here and somebody goes off by themselves, I have 5 other people to contend with.
Yep.
They all have a certain amount of time. So let's hypothetically, I'm just going to throw numbers out. I give everybody 5 minutes to do whatever they're doing. It's not going to be that long. I'm just throwing numbers out there. So I have to go through all 5 of the other guys. Now, when I get back to him, he still has only that same amount of limited time. Mm-hmm. So if he can't tell me what he's doing and everything done in that completed time, that's all the time you get. I got to move on to the other people.
And those lone wolves are off there because they want the spotlight, and they're going to try to hang on to it for as long as they can.
Yeah.
And that's number one. You're making your game master work 2 tables.
It is. It's more work for your game master. It's right. You're
don't do that.
No, yeah. I remember, especially like we said, being a new GM, and I've been mostly a player for my 100 years or however long I've been playing. But the last session we did, we were all doing we were all taking turns and rotating through.
Yep.
And then Andrew went off by himself when everybody else decided to keep. I have to actually contend with them first. Give Andrew a couple minutes, come back to you guys. So Andrew's sitting there twiddling his thumbs. Instead of doing what Bill would have did, I actually kind of forced him back into coming into the group. But if it wasn't for that, he would have been outside pretty much the whole campaign.
Right.
Or, that adventure. It wasn't a campaign. It was a one shot. But for me, that was like, how do I handle this? So I just had to, think, okay, this is what Bill would do. Okay, I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to do what Bill does. I'm playing chess now with Andrew in my limited amount of time to get him back to go inside with everybody else. It took a little bit of coaxing, but it was undue stress that I didn't need.
Yeah, and it is. It's you. And Bill said this, or you said it. You're running 2 tables, right? You come into the game going, I'm going to run this table. I have my adventure prepared for the evening, and then someone goes off and does their own thing, or a couple of people go off and do their own thing, and now you're running 2 tables or 3 tables, simultaneously at the same time, right? So now you're dividing up all your time and your energy. It's not hard for me to manage that, and that's not because I'm like a stellar GM. It's just because I'm more practiced, right? But if you're not, then it's hard to manage that. But then again, there's a potential for bad things.
Well, and a lot of times too, that person who roams off will coax someone to go along with them.
Yeah.
So now you got 4 people on one side, 2 on the other. You're running, and if the encounter they're getting into sounds real cool and it seems to be going along, the table is interested, but in a fairly short period of time, those other 4 people are going to start getting bored, watching what you're doing and not doing anything themselves.
And that's why I think it's really important, and it's been said before, that you focus your energy on the larger group.
Yes.
Because I'd rather have 1 person bored than 5, or 2 people bored than 4 whatever have you.
It can even go worse than that. Like Bill said, you got these two over here and they're enjoying themselves. But now you're not prepared for this. Now you got these four here. And now let's say they're bored while they decide to go in a different direction. Something else you're not prepared for.
Yeah, or the direction they decide to go in has nothing to do with the game, right?
Exactly.
Someone goes out and has a cigarette, or the cell phones come out, or you have like table talk going on. You've lost your momentum in the campaign.
Well, the interest is gone.
Yeah.
For the larger portion of the table.
And that'll kill, once that interest and that momentum is gone, that's gonna kill your game session. You're gonna have a substandard game session if you're not able to kind of bring them back around. Your players are going to get to know you, right? Your players are going to get to know, like, okay, well, Bill will probably kill me. So maybe I'll just stick around with the rest of the group. There's safety in numbers. That's the old adage, safety in numbers, right?
Tough love.
Yeah, but it's not a punishment. These are, this is the situation you've put yourself in. There's a sense of mortality. I know 5e doesn't have a lot of mortality to it, not like the earlier editions where 10 minutes into your adventure in your new campaign, your wizard or your magic user, as they were called back in those days, was hit with a rock. And since he only had 2 hit points, now he's dead and you're back to the drawing board, jiggling dice in your hands. But there is a sense of mortality to it, and there's penalties, not as punishment, but the circumstances are what they are.
Right.
But boredom is the worst thing that could happen to your table.
Yeah, it kills the gameplay. It kills the momentum. It could kill your table.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, because then you start getting, I come here every, in our case, Monday nights, sit down, have a good 4 hours of decompression from life in general. And here's so-and-so running off doing their own thing. And now I'm sitting here on my cell phone watching YouTube videos when I'm really here to play. But now, now the GM's focusing on this person. And he's going to come back. Yeah, he's going to come back to us any minute now. But now I'm so into my text messages or my cigarette or the argument with, the wife or girlfriend, hopefully not both. And I'm now, my immersion's gone. I'm now drawn right out of the table and back into the real world that I'm trying to escape from with my, every Monday night therapy session. and that sucks.
So boredom is horrible.
Yeah.
Then you get into the gameplay itself, the assimilation of knowledge. You have one group. Now, if you've designed your encounter to have half the party go down left and half the party go down right, you're prepared for this.
Yeah.
This is what you anticipated. You're ready for it. You already have, you got your time management ahead of you, but it's clips back and forth. That's fine. If they do it unannounced, now you have half the group gaining knowledge and or items, information, people, and the other half doesn't have it. How do you, in gameplay, you can't just metagame and say, well, yeah, no, they have it.
Yeah,
they got to come back and then waste all the time saying, this is what we found, and it's basically a reintroduction of everything you just did.
Right, and now you're back to that boredom thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's excess time. It's wasted time.
It is.
And wasted time is, the clock is ticking. If you have a 3-hour game session between 7 and 11, or 7 and 10, my math was off, you've taken 15 minutes away because, again, for the third time, you've had to re-explain everything to the other half.
If you're lucky, it's only 15
Right.
minutes.
And so there's 15, 20 minutes off of that 3-4 hour gameplay that you've lost. And you're not going to regain it. So the assimilation of information all by itself in-game becomes more difficult because it has to be explained twice, whether it's by you or by the party, to the other half of the party. No, they were sitting right there, but if it's not told, old school Bill says, you can't use that information. You don't know about it. And even if you don't keep track of it, I can guarantee you I am. Who knows and who doesn't?
And that it kills the pacing too, right?
Yes.
The key to to a good adventure, right? And a good gaming session is the pace that's kind of set by the GM and the players at the table. So when you got the split party and each side has different sets of information and they're coming back together and they're relaying information from one half to the other, it slows the pacing down.
Yes.
And then everything kind of screeches to a halt and you get derailed.
Well, I think even worse than screeching to a halt is the grinding, slow pace. The constant anticipation that I finally get a chance to say or do something is more grating on me than nothing happening at all.
Yeah.
I think the slow pace for me as a player would be worse than, all right, well, at least, and during slow play, I'm waiting, I'm listening, I'm waiting. I'm still freaking waiting. When it comes to a stop, screw that. I get out my phone and I'm checking shit. I'm no longer part of it. Yeah, that's bad. But as a player, I find it more grating on my nerves to be constantly waiting for that other shoe to drop, finally get my turn, because the pace has become so slow and I become aggravated quicker than if I'm not part of it at all.
Yeah, it's like being on the highway in slow traffic.
Slow traffic, yep.
And you're agitated, you're pissed off the whole time. You're moving still.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it at that moment. And it's that frustration level.
And it's far worse than
is
being
worse
at a dead stop.
Than a dead stop.
Yeah. And that's when you start, well, when you're at that stop, you start losing player interest, right? That boredom sets in. But when you're at that slow-moving pace, it's even worse than the boredom because now people are getting pissed.
Mm-hmm. And that, like, to Lou's point, now the other half of the table goes, well, if they're going to do that, well, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
I know the road's going this way, and I know there's no path on the right-hand side. But you know something? We're going to march off in the woods and see what we can find. It's woods. Yep. But we're going to head that way anyways. Great.
Yeah, so now I got to come up with a bunch of stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
Or I have to rearrange the encounters a little bit. It could be a huge hassle for everybody.
Yes. So then we move on to the next point, which I think we've kind of touched on here and there. Game Master, don't be confused. If one of your characters or your player characters runs off on their own on a regular basis, all right, this is someone who does it all the time. Every other game session, but this player is known for taking their character and off they go. This is not a split party. This is someone who doesn't want to play a cooperative game or doesn't understand what a cooperative gameplay is. Now, we pick on Andrew for peeling off on the party a lot. It's not that Andrew doesn't want to be part of a cooperative gameplay. He's not, at that time, earlier on, wasn't familiar with what a cooperative gameplay was. So he's trying to, do something constructive, but doesn't know how to do it with the group, so he's going to do it on his own.
I kind of blame video games for this.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of games are multiplayer, a lot of guys are going off on their own, and if we're playing, hypothetically, Baldur's Gate or whatever, all three of us are playing, we're doing something, and I see you guys doing, I'm going to go run off and go check those rooms. It is a cooperative game, but it's not.
Yes.
And this is what a lot of people are getting used to. I can go do this. I've seen people come to a D&D table and bring that video game mentality into our game session. And while everybody's doing something, they're off going around checking everything else because that's what they're used to. So That's where a lot of this comes from. And we just have to, again, this is a session zero. That's not even session zero because this is something that's going to be unexpected. You need to sit down with that person and say, this is not a video game. This is not an MMO. This is a tabletop RPG. And the rules are different. They're the same in a lot of senses of being cooperative, but when you go off on your own, that makes a lot more work for me. The video game handles it all on its own. The video game doesn't have to think about that. The GM's like, now what do I do? Especially if it's a new GM, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
Well, the video game cooperative is I'm with a group. As far as I'm concerned, like I said, I don't play online games because there's no attraction there for me. as I see it from the outside, their definition of cooperative play is I'm with a group.
Yeah.
That's it. It ends there. Where cooperative play in tabletop RPGs is I have my character, but my character becomes stronger and better working off the abilities or disadvantages of my fellow players. Other player characters have strengths and weaknesses just like me. And if my strength is better than their weakness, then great, I have something that I can bolster. And that's where the cooperative part comes in, where you work with the strengths and weaknesses of the people on the table. You're not just there as part of the group. You're there with the group. You are the group. And you need to bolster their weaknesses, and they need to bolster yours. And that's where cooperative gameplay comes with, TTRPGs, as opposed to like the video games where cooperative means I'm with a group. And I can head off by myself, but hey, I'm still with the group. That's how I see it from my point of view.
Yeah, it is kind of like a video gaming mentality, and now you see that a lot more than you did in the past. In the past, when someone did that, it was usually, my character's a lone wolf. He's like Wolverine or the Punisher, and I'm off doing my own thing. I don't need a partner, and that's like okay, but you don't have an adamantium skeleton, and you don't have a team of writers writing your story. So you have me and the ogres that you just encountered, and this is going to be a bad thing.
And your Batarang is not going to help you here.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just someone that is kind of disruptive by nature. Sometimes it's just not a good fit for your table or your GMing style, or maybe that personality is just not a good fit for the game itself, right?
Yep.
And that's okay too. You got to have these conversations. It's not working out, dude. I'm sorry. I don't think this is the right game for you. Maybe it's not the right table. Maybe it's not the right group. But I'm happy you tried it. But
and we've run into that ourselves.
Yep. Bill said it earlier. It really happens more often with inexperienced players.
Yes.
Like I was the small game for my daughter and her friends, and they didn't know any better, and they were all split. I'm like, okay, I had to explain to them what they needed to do, why they needed to stay together, that they just can't go off on their own. This is their first time playing. They were like, oh, I did not realize that. We were used to the video games that they play. So, but it's really the inexperienced players that are first coming into the game that really don't know. So we need to guide them.
We do, because that's very different than being like just disruptive,
yes,
or being the wrong fit for a group or a game. You got to give the young or inexperienced players an opportunity to kind of learn the ropes a little bit and have those conversations with them and coach them up.
And if you're not, shame on you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if you have a group of experienced players and you're introducing a couple new players or inexperienced players, someone that doesn't have that level of experience, not just the GM, but I think it's our responsibility as like a gaming community to kind of coach up these players.
The stuff I use is mentoring.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is where you're going with it, but I often will ask one of my experienced players to sit next to the inexperienced player and say, listen, do me a favor, coach them. And aside from me, you're the only other voice they should be listening to. Because they're going to get information. They're going to get suggestions, good, bad, and ugly, from everyone on the table. And you tell your inexperienced player, listen, you're going to sit alongside so-and-so. All right. And, okay, whatever Ben tells you, that's probably the way you're going to want to go. All right. So I'm sitting next to Ben, and Ben's going to kind of be your coach. And the only other person that can override what he says is me. Ignore what everyone else says. Some of them may sound good. Some of them might sound bad. And if they sound good, let it go through Ben first. But Ben's your coach.
Yeah, he's your preceptor.
Yep.
He's your field training officer in the D&D world. And that's and be willing to do that, folks. Because if we gatekeep and drive off all these new players or inexperienced players by just being jerks, you're doing D&D wrong and stuff like that, then when we go and we're no longer like gaming,
I'll miss you guys.
You know,
We'll miss you too, Bill.
where are you gonna? Where's the hobby gonna be? Right, we've closed the doors to new people, or because either we haven't allowed them in when they knocked, or we drove them back out, which is terrible.
Awesome point.
That's how you kill a hobby.
Yes.
Right.
It doesn't. Every hobby has to have new and usually younger. It could be the octogenarians club. You have to be at least 80 years to get in. Now, almost everyone's 90 and 100. Let's face it. Aside from me, you're not living much longer than that. If you don't keep getting 80-year-old people in, it literally dies off.
Yeah.
And that'll happen with a hobby real quick, especially, like I said, if you gatekeep. So, mentor these people. It doesn't. There is no right or wrong way. Well, there's lots of wrong ways, but there's no truly right way. There's always going to be a table or a gameplay style or someone that appreciates how you go about things. If you find those people, great. When you can find like-minded people or open-minded people that are willing to take you in, and all right, we can work around that. We can do that. So let's do that. But there's going to be a few things to help guide you, and let's use that mentoring system. Use a coach. That's probably one of the best ways to get around this, because let's face it, when you split the party, bad things are going to happen. Whether it's by accident, by random roll, or you get a mean, rotten bastard like me who's looking for that person to go off by themselves on a regular basis, and I will make an example of you. Don't split the party.
I'm back. What did we say?
Roll saving throw.
No.
What was were you guys around the old adage when I tell you never park your character in a yellow zone?
Yep. The yellow zone was a bad place to be.
Yeah.
But that's another episode.
That's another episode. But yeah, don't park your character in the yellow zone. Bad things happen.
And that's Splitting the Party, Part 1, Why You Should Not Do It. We'll see you next time in the dojo. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.